This is the year of double blessings, 2020. So be ready. Everything's going to be different. Everything's new. Scripture says, behold, I make all things new. Now, when I grew up, church was about 2 hours. And I heard Victor say not long ago, Victor Doherty, that there's a difference between a sermon and a hostage-taken situation. So I'm not going to hold you hostage today. This is our white stone ceremony. It's going to be more about our internal work. But before I get started on this little sermonette, there was a little boy like me sitting, fidgeting in church for hours. And the preacher was going on and on and on. And the little boy finally, in a loud voice, leaned over to his mother and says, isn't there another way we can get to heaven? I used to wonder that myself. But the heaven we know is in us. It's in us. All the answers that you seek are in you. This morning as I was getting ready, I was watching Channel 41 and off and on, and they were talking about thousands of years ago that the Babylonians discovered the constellations. Now, the constellations were already there, so, they just recognized and became aware of the constellations. And 50 years ago, we became aware of our relationship with the constellations. You probably remember this. When the moon is in the 7th house, and Jupiter aligns with Mars, and peace will guide the planets, and love will steer the stars. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, age of Aquarius. Oh, you guys know this. Yeah. But Shakespeare said something that rocked my world in the 60s when I first read it. He said, the destiny is not within our stars, it's in ourselves. Our destiny is not in our stars, but every boy that wanted to date me, the first thing they asked was not my name. What's your sign? What's your sign? Well, I was born under the sign of Taurus, the bull. Now, I behave that way occasionally. I really do. And people who know me personally know, don't ever tell her what she can't do. Because she will turn heaven and earth to try it. Don't tell me what I can't do. That's the bull in me. That's the Taurus. But I cannot be defined by my zodiac sign. Because I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, just like all of you. And that's what Jesus was coming to tell us. To show us how to show up as divine beings that we are. You don't need a sign. It doesn't matter what month or day you were born in. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. So if someone comes up to you and asks you your sign, it's okay to tell them, but make sure they know you're not Flat Stanley. You are more than a sign on the zodiac. But that is a tool. That is a tool by which you can get a better understanding of yourself. Reverend Nan does the Enneagram, another tool by which you can get a better understanding of yourself and how you show up and relate to other people. Myers-Briggs, I had about 100 million times in my career, had to take the Myers-Briggs over and over and over. Another tool that helps you recognize the tendencies within yourself. So we want to talk today about who you are. Do you remember this song? Who are you? Ooh, 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 ooh. You probably heard it on CSI, But The Who, back in the 60s, my generation wrote that song. They were an English band, an English rock group. And what they're saying is, only you know who you are. Who are you? So I'm going to be asking you to go within several times and ask yourself the question, who am I? Not who was I yesterday. Who am I? What am I called to be? Who am I? There was an old Baptist preacher that Dr. King quoted. He said, I ain't what I ought to be. I ain't what I want to be. I ain't what I'm going to be, but thank God I ain't what I was. So you're not who you were. It's who am I today? What is calling me? And the first thing we do in recognizing who we are is our name. So someone will come up to you and say, what's your name? And you identify yourself by that name. I had several names. It was so confusing growing up. So when I first met my husband, and he was at a family gathering, the first time he came to my family, there were people, we talk all at the same time. And we hear everybody's conversations, and we go in and out of conversations, and it's crazy. And he's from a big family of 10 where his father was like a Gestapo or like a drill sergeant, and everybody was quiet when Big Bob was home. Well, I didn't grow up that way, even though I was by myself as almost an only child. I'm much younger than the other two, and I was home when they were grown. I was the only child at home. But we get really noisy. So somebody over here is calling your name, and they would say, Sandra, and I would answer. And they would say, Sandra, and I would answer. And they'd say, Sandra Jean, and I would answer. And then they would say, Jean, and I would answer, because different family members called me by different names. And my husband would just be so confused. Who are you? What is your name? And so people still come up to me today and say, oh, I said Sandra, I'm sorry. Is your name Sandra? I don't know. And I tell them that. I really don't. Whatever you call me is fine. Just call me for dinner. I don't know. But who you are, that name means something. That name you were given has a meaning. But you have a deeper meaning to you. And that's that name that only you will hear in that still small voice. So on the front of the bulletin, I refer you to the book of Revelations in one of Unity's textbooks, the Bible. Revelations, the 2nd chapter, the 17th verse, and it reads, to the one who is victorious, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to the one who receives it. And then I go on to break this down from the revealing word by our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, which defines words, nouns, verbs from Scripture, taken from Aramaic and Hebrew all the way to English, and helps us understand the true meaning of that Scripture for us. And it reads, we must learn to let go, to give up, to make room for the things we have prayed for and desired. When we redeem ourselves from bondage, and that's self-bondage, to sense, and that's the consciousness of spirit, we shall be sustained by the inner or spiritual food, which is the hidden manna, which is understanding of truth, and the foundation, which is white stone, upon which we build up and develop our true Christ self. So each of you should have received a white stone. And that white stone is meant for you to hold it, feel that energy, let your energy sink into that stone. When something is written in stone, it is unchangeable, just like you. With your name, stands for who you are. That doesn't change. Who you really are spiritually does not change. There's a Hindu proverb that says, you are what your deepest desire is. That's who you are, your deepest desire. As is your desire, so is your intention. As in your intention, so is your will. And as is your will, so is your deed. As is your deed, so is your destiny. That name that you receive on your you'll write on your white stone, will tell you your destiny. Last week, those of you who were at the Burning Bowl, you pulled out an angel card after you let go of those things that you no longer want to carry forward. And my angel card is obedience. That's who I am, called to be. That I've chosen as my new name. I'm listening to Spirit. I'm being obedient. I'm going within, and I'm listening for understanding. What is it that I'm called to be? Who am I? I want you to think those words, those 3 words, very carefully. I want you to take them into your consciousness as we move into meditation. Who am I?